Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today, I have a very interesting subscriber interview. And when I say that, I do mean that because I was left afterward thinking about the experience, a couple of experiences that they shared with us. Thinking about how and why and what could have transpired and how it transpired. I think you guys will feel the same way. Before we get into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share this video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help this channel and they really do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's subscriber interview, shall we? All right, guys. So tonight I have a special guest. Many of you know her from the comment section. I call her the godmother of the channel because she has been with us since the beginning. She has a very interesting experience that she had shared a couple years ago that occurred a while back. But since, in recent times, she's had some very strange things happening in her backyard and around her home. And not just her, but her brother has heard some things as well. So, Jane, how are you?
I'm great, Jeff. How are you tonight?
I am very well. I'm glad that we finally connected because I've been saying I got to get you on, and with everything in the last couple of months.
Life happens, Jeff.
Yep. So, I know a lot of people know you from the comment section. You're always welcoming people to the channel and just, being one of the kindest people I've ever met.
Well, thank you.
Well, you did it, not me. So why don't we just kind of refresh everyone with the experience that you had out in Montana, and then we can move forward as the years go by.
Alrighty. Okay, so this was back in 1977, and I was married about a year, and we decided to go cross country. So we started at the upper part of the country. It's a beautiful country. We walked around. I walked around Devil's Tower, which is a very strange and odd place, I have to say. It's a very creepy kind of a feel when you're walking around it. And after that, we had, driven a bit. We got into Montana, which is beautiful. And he decides he wants to go camping. He decided he's going to take this left down this. It wasn't even a road. It was like somebody just drove over grass, and it looked like somebody did it recently. And it was probably the camper trailer that we saw that was there. But that's where we went camping, and it took like a half hour to get down in there. And it was kind of creepy. I didn't like it, but that's what he wanted to do, so we did. And we had our dogs with us. I will refer to them as the girls, my two Dobermans. They were awesome dogs. And this camp spot, just to give you an idea, it was like we were on kind of a little cliff, was about 15 feet down to a beautiful river. You could walk around it, though. You could walk out of the camper and go down, which is what I did with the girls. And oddly enough, they wouldn't leave my side when we got them out, and I figured they'd want to run around, but they didn't. And it was kind of an open camp area, like a turnaround, like a dead-end road, with like a center of grass and some bushes and stuff. And so, we're there, we're doing our thing. I cook dinner, we get everything all cleaned up, and we put the fire out. And we're sitting there in the camper, and the next thing you know, we see like this glow in the curtains, and we're like, what is that? And the dogs would not move. They were laying on the floor of the camper, would not move. And I looked out, and there was standing, swaying side to side, which just creeped me out even more, was Sasquatch standing next to the fire that it had revived. I don't know how he did it. We always had a bucket of water. This was so weird. We always had a bucket of water like next to our fire, and we were very good at, putting that out.
Right.
So it went on, and it just stood there, and we're like waiting. And I remember I said to John, hey, wait, we should just kick out the back window of the camper and the back window of the pickup, and I can crawl through and we'll get out of here. And he didn't want to do that because I was not getting out of the camper.
Right.
And I looked at the girls, and I felt so bad. They had urinated where they lay. The poor things were terrified. And so I put towels and stuff under them and cleaned them up. And this thing just like stayed there, like swaying side to side. And that's all it did.
Was the fire, did it like, because I've heard this before, and I've always wanted to ask, because I just envisioned, like when you said the glow, like it rekindled the embers. And sorry about that.
That's okay.
The bike went by. Like it had rekindled the embers, but did it actually start the fire back up? Was there flames?
It actually got, and I don't know how it did this, Jeff, but it actually got the whole fire up because the glow was very bright. I mean, it lit up the whole side of the camper. And we looked at each other like, what? Did we miss something? We thought maybe the wind blew it. But nope, this creature was standing there. And as I talk about this, I usually look at my ceiling because we have 8-foot ceilings. And it had to be close to that, I would think. It was tall, very, very tall. Long arms, no neck to speak of, the typical conical head kind of shape.
Yeah.
And it just stood there, rocking side to side, which I said to John, oh my God, it's going to push us, I'm thinking it's going to push us over the cliff. And this went on for about 20 minutes. And then this is the very weirdest thing. This is the really weirdest thing. Next thing I know, it's 6:30 in the morning and we're waking up. I don't know what happened. I don't know how we both fell asleep. I have no idea. I got my dogs up, and they would not leave my side, just would not leave my side.
Wow.
And I walked them down to the river and tried getting them cleaned up. I put fresh towels down for them and everything, and we got out of there. As soon as we could get back, everything put in the camper, because I would have left everything that night.
Yeah.
I would have just said, I don't care what's outside. And that behavior, that rocking back and forth is just so creepy.
Did the dogs make any noise? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but did the dogs at that time, I know they urinated on themselves and stuff, but did they make any kind of noise? Like, did they growl? Did they?
Nothing.
No whining, nothing.
Jeff, they did nothing.
Wow. They
had their heads flat to the floor. They were terrified. I've never seen them since, nor had I seen them before, behave that way, and I felt so bad for them. And we didn't know it was going to happen,
Yeah.
We had stupid, no weapons, nothing, traveling cross country. So it kind of made like a screeching noise when we were leaving, and we pull up, we get up onto the road, and I remember we took a left, And we went down the road a ways, and I said, wherever we camp tonight, it's going to be like a KOA or something. I don't care. I don't care what people think of those. And we stopped at this little general store, really cool wooden, your typical beautiful wooden, like old-fashioned wooden store. We walked up the steps and went in, and had a big potbelly stove in the center. And I'm walking around looking at everything, and he's talking to this old dude that's at the counter. And you're a very cool guy, you know, the overalls and the beard and everything. And next thing I know, John calls me over, and he says, come here. And the older man says to me, he says, young woman, he says, is it your time? And I looked at him, I'm like, what? Because, you know, I'm like 22 years old.
Right.
And I said, well, what do you mean? And he goes, your time. And I'm like, oh. I said, well, it was. I was at the end of it. And he said, okay. And then he, you know, wanted me to, like, walk away because he wanted to talk to John. Well, he told John not to take me any other place like that because I was what attracted, this really grossed me out. I was the one who attracted, I guess, the Sasquatch. They're, you know, attracted to that. And that has been ever since then probably my biggest warning for women. Yeah. Is really, you know, sincerely, you shouldn't be in the woods because, you know, I've been in barns too where there's stallions and even they get like worked up and you can't stay in the barn. And I mean, these creatures are attracted to that because, you know, whatever they are, they definitely like the women. Yeah. So I would just say to, you know, to the ladies, please just be extra cautious and never go alone, you know, and just, if you can avoid going when you have your period, then do it. Yeah, yeah. You know, really. It's interesting, the whole time loss thing, you know, that's like an abduction. Jeff, that's what freaked me out. Yeah. That's like an abduction scenario, you know, like you're 1 minute you're looking out of your camper window looking at your dogs going, holy shit. The next minute you're waking up at 6:30 and what the hell? Yeah. And that's what it was like. It was like, what the heck? You know, we wake up and it's like, what is going on? Yeah. It's like, how could I possibly have fallen asleep? And we did. You know, we did. And it was just, I couldn't wait to get out of there. Oh my God. Yeah. I remember when I first heard you share it with me, I was blown away. But, you know, we've always kind of heard, and, you know, that these things are attracted to women and their time of the month and such. Yep. And animals, you know, all kind of animals are. But, you know, the one thing that always got me was that time, you know, loss of time. And you seldom hear that with a cryptid experience. Yep, and that's what bothered me the most. I'm like, oh my God, I woke up and I'm like looking around the camper and everything looked okay. Yeah. You know, the dogs still weren't moving. Still in that same spot. I got up and I said, come on, let's go out, guys. You know, and they wouldn't leave my side. They were like glued to me. And it was just, oh my God. It was probably one of the most terrifying nights I think I've ever had, because I had heard about, you know, them, and I certainly watched enough on TV and, you know, like Leonard Nimoy's show, like every other kid did in the 70s. Absolutely. And all kinds of things. And my mom and I used to talk about that, you know, why there could certainly be other beings, you know, can't just be us. But to actually see them and see how huge this thing was, I mean, a man couldn't work out enough to get this huge. The thing was just massive. Yeah. The tree trunk legs, oh my God. Absolutely terrifying. Just terrifying. Yep. And, you know, you could speculate a lot. Once, I hate to go back to the time loss thing, but that's the one thing that gets me with this experience, you know. I'm sure people are like,
obviously other people are going to say, whoa, it was attracted to the scent of a woman and this and that. But the time loss, like how people could speculate, maybe it hit you guys with infrasound, this and that. But there could be so many different scenarios of what caused it.
Yep.
And for you not to know anything that's, like you said, the scariest part. You don't know what transpired from whenever time this occurred to 6:30 in the morning.
Yep. And I think it was around, I don't know if it was 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night.
So there's a lot of time.
Yeah, there's a lot of time, Jeff.
Yeah.
When I think about it, I'm like, oh my God. What was it doing?
Yeah.
What was it doing around the camper and everything? And I'm thinking, oh. And those girls, man, I'll tell you, they would protect us no matter what, right? They'd saw a couple of bear and like that, and they'd bark at them. I'm like, you two have to back down.
Yeah. Well, Dobermans are really known as good protecting dogs, they...
And they're very loving. They were such good dogs. I just felt so bad for them because they were shaking and just... And then when they urinated, I thought, oh, you poor things. They're so scared,
Yeah.
Like, we're not freaked out enough. We know what we're looking at.
Yep. These poor animals have... you guys know what you're looking at, but they obviously could sense it and knew that there was an apex out there. Yeah. And, that's just...
It kind of reminded me of like a baby deer. You know how they flatten out?
Yep.
On the floor? That's what they were like.
Wow.
And they were big Dobermans. But they just weren't having any of it. Ugh,
incredible.
It was awful.
Incredible. Yeah, that's one for the books right there.
Yeah, it really was, because and like you say, there are certain things to it, like the time loss, and what is that swaying back and forth behavior?
Yeah.
What are they doing? Are they thinking about what they want to do?
Yeah. I've often wondered that. Like, are they, because I've stood there, and I'm sure other people have, like, thinking about these creatures, and I've swayed back and forth purposely to see if there's any kind of, why they would do it.
Yep.
And, are they keeping their balance? Are they, what are they doing? There's got to be a reason, because everyone, any kind of experience, not everyone, but, people say, I saw these eyes, these red, these yellow eyes swaying back and forth in the woods, staring at me. That swaying has some sort of value. There's something to that. You can't just dismiss it as, oh, they're just swaying. If they all do it, there's something to it.
It's some kind of behavior that they all have.
Yeah. That
must mean something.
Maybe, yeah.
But we didn't see the red eyes. There was no smell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was just very terrifying. It really was. It was horrific. But I thought about it after, and I didn't till that night when we were camping, and we were around a lot of people that next night.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I said, do you realize that we fell asleep while that was going on? And he looked at me. I said, yeah, we fell asleep and didn't wake up till like 6:30 in the morning. And it just, oh my God.
Did the shopkeeper, did he share anything else with your husband there? Like, did he, other than, keep an eye on her?
Basically, it was about, taking care of like where we go,
right,
because of me at that point.
Yeah.
But that was like his biggest concern, because apparently they have, they did in a lot of his area there, steal women.
Yeah.
They would take women, Yep. They would take children too, but they like to take, the younger women.
Yeah.
It just, that creeps me out too.
Absolutely. It does. Well, that one, like I said, is one for the books, because there's just so, it is terrifying in a psychological way. It's not like this thing came up to your window and bared its teeth. No.
Yeah.
But what happened was the unknown is what gets you. And it's, these are the experiences that I like because you can really, think about it and learn stuff from that, so.
Yep.
Crazy. So after that, what was your next kind of cryptid experience?
Well, there's been a lot of stuff throughout the years. I mean, when I was living in New Milford, Connecticut, it was 3 acres there, and we backed up to a park. It was huge area there, across the street from a beautiful river, always by water. I have always lived by water, which probably says something in and of itself. And I can remember there were nights now. Back then, that was in 95. I had 3 Rottweilers and a Doberman, and they were all over 100 pounds each, so it was a lot of dog.
Yeah.
And there were many nights, because a lot of times I was there alone, that they would not go out the door. I would open the door, and the smell that would hit you, it was just like dead animal crap. I mean, it was awful. And those dogs would, I remember my big Bo, mostly, the big guy, one of the bigger guys, he'd stand there and put his head out and look at me. I'm like, go ahead, guys, come on, let's go out. And they're like, no, did not want to go out. And I know it was out there, not that the one in Montana smelled, but I knew something was out there more than bear.
Yeah.
Because we had bear up there too, but this was more than that. And there was numerous times they would not go outside. And these were dogs that, they would go out no matter what.
Yeah, people really, when they hear Connecticut, they don't think, that there could be anything out there, but there really is.
There's quite a bit. And then the thing that happened, and you and I had talked about this, it was last summer. Is that when you had your car accident?
Back in 20...
Or 22?
23. The winter of 22. Yep.
Okay.
January. Yep.
Okay. Because, so here I am, I'm sitting here at night. It was about 1:30 in the morning, because a lot of times I can't sleep. And I'm sitting in my living room, and I'm facing my front door. I was watching TV, and we have a big, I think that's called a bay window, big open bow window. And then behind me is another window, so it's a lot of windows. And I see across the street my neighbor's outside light comes on. And I go, I said, I wonder what's running around in the yard. Usually it's deer, and I've seen coyote and all kinds of stuff running around out there. Well, not this night. Her light, like just beyond the perimeter, this being stepped out, and all I saw were these 2 huge legs and feet, just huge. And it didn't step all the way into the light. And it's like it knew what it was doing. And this is what perplexes me. I know this is not like a big deal thing for a lot of people, but I want to know why it did this. And it just like shook its legs a little bit, didn't move its feet, and then stepped back. And literally that's it. But I'm like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. Like just shook its leg.
Why would it do that?
Yeah. I remember when you first told me about it, and all I could think was like a Bigfoot or Dogman burlesque dancer with its legs. Like it's just such an odd thing for it to do. And yet it did it. It's just another weird thing that you can't explain.
I know it. And my brother has heard a couple of times at about, I don't know, later in the evening, much later, running on our roof. One of them, something running bipedal, just running back and forth. I mean, these things think nothing of doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, it really irritates me. Like, well, even the lady across the street, I go over to visit her because she's just awesome. And I said, how you doing? I said, are you feeling better about being here? Because her husband had passed away a while ago. She says, yeah. She goes, but every now and then it sounds like something is slapping my house. And I said, what? And she said, it's slapping my... And I didn't say anything to her because I thought, I am not going to just freak her out.
Right.
Even more. But I don't know what to do because it's obviously screwing with her. It throws pebbles at the windows. I mean, it's screwing with her. And it's what it does around here, apparently. It's messed with me when I've been out in the front yard imitating owls. It just recently did one. I thought there was 5 different barred owls out there. And then I realized that one of them was not an owl, possibly 2, because of the way they sounded. It's like, there was like 3 that sounded like the owl, but then there was 2 that were like,
yeah.
They sounded a little bit off,
Yep. And
I'm standing out there, and my nephew and his buddy were standing out front, and they're like, they were afraid to move. They were like literally frozen by the car. I said, guys, come on, come in.
Yeah.
And they're standing there. I said, come on. And it's like they were calling to each other, Jeff.
I had a guy that I had talked to, Magnolia, Indiana, or I don't remember the state. I'll have to remember it. But he never came on and shared. He just shared it with me. But he called them, he called them owl men when I first started talking to him. And in my head, I go, wait, like Mothman? Do they fly? What are you seeing? And he's like, no. Yeah. He goes, they're Bigfoot or a Dogman. I don't know what it is, but they're freaking huge. And they use this owl-like sound to communicate with each other when they're hunting in the woods at night. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, that is very interesting.
Yep. And I think that's what I guess these were doing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you can tell that it's not an owl. Like on that day that I went up to where Mezek disappeared and during the eclipse day, and I blew the shofar, and there was that noise that it didn't sound like an owl. I've listened to that sound a million times. I've played it for different people. Yep. It sounds almost like a laugh with like this weird kind of sound, and it just keeps going further and further away from me. And I really, I don't know what, I think that was a Bigfoot out there that day. But they have that way of communicating with each other. Maybe it was like they knew you guys were out there and they were just trying to.
Well, I was standing out there with little Frankie, and I'm like, what is going on? Because this sounded really close. And I saw the guys pull up, and they got out of the car. Now, Pete's a hunter. And he's standing there. I'm like, guys, come on. They're like, we don't want to move. I said, get in the house. I said, come on. And then I guess Anthony had to leave, but Pete came running. He came in the house again. And I'm like, Pete, what was that? I said, that can't just be owls. Because I went and looked up owl, the barred owls, to hear how they sound. And it was like that. Like a couple of them were, but not totally. So it's just very, strange. I mean, we've had a lot of, we've had trees and stuff that have been twisted and that are not within any proximity of each other. Mm-hmm. Like you could think, okay, it's a microburst, but it's not. And they're facing at our house. And that, I'm told, is a way to, like, mark an area.
So wait, the way the trees are bending are bent towards, like, pointing towards your home, kind of.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And
I got just a quick question. The night that your brother had, or the nights that your brother had heard something on the roof, can you explain or go, like, he just like was sitting in the living room and heard just running? Did he hear any kind of clicks? Like,
nope. He said he was sitting in the living room, and he just heard something like ba-boom. And then he said he knew it was bipedal. He could tell by the way it sounded. Right. And it was just running back and forth on the roof.
Are there trees around your house for something to get up there? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure. I bet you that it went up the big pine tree here in the back. We have a huge pine tree.
Okay.
Guarantee it went up that way. I think. I don't know. I mean, I'm talking like I know, but I don't.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of times they just mess with us just because they can.
Yeah.
And I mean, the light outside, even if it's not windy out, some nights is just on and off and on and off. So I have a couple of other things. That's right now anyway, my Sasquatch stuff. I had some other things. I had a couple of glitches happen.
Okay.
Now this was weird. Okay, this was last year, 2023, Easter. So here it is, it's Easter the next day, it's Monday, Easter Monday. And I get up and I look across the street and I'm like, wow, she took all of her decorations down already, right? And I said to David, and David was sitting right across the room. I said, Dave, look, she pulled everything down already. She's ready to clean up, right? And all day long, that's how the house looked, everything, even all her posts on her fence and everything, all the little eggs were down. So the next morning I get up, and there it all is. Every decoration is back. And I looked at Dave, and Dave looked at me, and I said, what do you think? And I don't even know what to think. Because I know that we were up that Monday, and we were looking at it, and every time I went outside, I laughed to myself. I'm like, boy, she's not fooling around this year. She pulled everything down.
Right.
And the next day, there it all is, exactly the way it was on Easter. So I guess that's a glitch. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm calling it that.
You didn't see her do it in the day, and it's a little old lady, the little old lady that lives across the street that you just talked about?
Yes.
So, I mean, I doubt hearing something slapping on her wall of her home that she's going to be out at like 11 p.m. putting Easter decorations back up, so yeah. I mean, in my eyes, it would constitute as a glitch, but I'm not an expert, but yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm calling it, because I took a double take. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and, that's strange.
She just, that property, it actually is an Indian, there was burial grounds around there somewhere.
Okay.
And I looked at her and I said, what? And she said, yeah, we went to the town hall. I guess they went and got a map and looked it up. So I'm like, oh boy. So
well, that would mean it's across the street from you, so your area would more than likely be affected as well.
Targeted, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's crazy. That glitch is crazy. That's interesting, like Easter Sunday, the Monday after, you're like, oh, wow, she got all her shit down quick, didn't she?
Yeah, and then, I was up at like 8:30. She never is doing that.
Yeah.
Like, she always leaves it up for like a week.
Wow.
And she did after that. And I'm like, and I said to Dave, are we mental? Like,
really?
He goes, nope.
70s flashback?
Yep. Smoked too much weed back in the day? What happened?
That's crazy. Yeah. That is interesting.
And I've had that kind of thing happen when I go to the grocery store. I'll see the exact same person, have the exact same conversation, and I'm standing there like, I don't know, it's very odd.
Yeah.
Very odd. There's been a few times when, like knowing when the phone is going to ring, that's been happening. And I don't know, I would imagine a lot of your other subscribers, a lot of the other dog fam, is feeling a lot of, I don't know if it's pressure, like something's coming, like you can feel something's coming, but you can't figure out what it is.
Like an energy?
Yeah, like you feel, it's almost like I don't feel confused, but I feel like there's a pressure, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like something's changing in a very big way. And I guess I think it actually is, but
Yeah. Well, I don't mean to bring it up, but we had a quick conversation and you brought it up. So I guess it is, in law terms on you. No. But you know, you had said that you've been having these feelings more and more, and not like an ESP, but like, and a lot of people have these kind of feelings where you can anticipate, not in anticipation, but you feel like, oh shit, the phone's going to ring. Oh wait, this is going to happen.
exactly.
And I know for a fact that a lot of people on the channel, a lot of subscribers have, you know, said like, I have these strong feelings. And you had made a comment about stopping drinking tap water and other things, and filtering your water, taking certain chemicals that the government are putting into things that we take for granted on a daily basis, like fluoride in our drinking water.
Yeah, because we all have these abilities. We all do.
Yeah.
As human beings, but we are so like overloaded with the aluminum and what is it? Aluminum, the boron, and fluoride especially.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have a whole filter on there, and I could tell that everything is changing in myself, even because, you know, I know when things are going to happen before they do. I just do. And I said, oh, this is like when I was a young kid. And I mean, I remember when I was working at the animal hospital, and I think I told you this. And I had a dream the night before that the hospital was on fire. I was 19 when this happened. And I got there, and the firemen couldn't put it out. They couldn't use water. And that's all I remember about the dream. And I pulled into the hospital, I looked at it, and it was blazing in fire. And I'm like, oh my God. And I looked back, and there was nothing. So I said, okay. So I go in, you know, we're working. We get all of our stuff done for the day. And I asked one of the guys, my boss, I said, Larry, I said, what's the wiring like in this building? Because it was the old part of the kennel at that point. And he goes, I don't know why. He says, I think it's okay. I'm like, oh, all right. I said, I just had a weird dream. And he looked at me, and we both laughed, and I went on my lunch break. You know, we all did it. We had like a 2-hour thing in the day because we were there from like 7 in the morning till 6 at night a lot of times.
Okay.
We get back, and there was fire trucks there, and we could see smoke, and I'm like, oh my God. And I got in, and they were using fire extinguishers to put out a fire. It was in the wall. Something had burned out and started a fire, I guess. And Larry says to me, the next time you have one of those dreams, tell me ahead of time, would you? And I'm like, oh, this is just how it's always been.
Yeah.
One of the more not fun things is, and I've always hated this, the ability to like know when people were going to pass away. And it would usually happen in about 6 months or so. And I've never really talked about this, to be honest, because I hated it. But I just thought, you know, people are going to think you're full of crap. But I would keep it to myself. And, you know, I'd be crying or something and upset to myself. And usually if I looked at somebody and their face would be black, like blacked out, like in a picture.
Yep.
They would be gone within 6 months. And, oh, my God, I hated that. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people like me, you know.
Yeah.
People are just afraid to talk about, like, all the stuff that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because of the, you know, the judgment.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, the negative stereotypes that we, you know,
Yep.
that not we, but mainstream puts upon these views and experiences that people are having.
There was another time when I was driving home from my shop. I still had my ceramic studio, pottery, and it was about 10:30 at night. It was pretty cold out. And I'm coming down one of the streets to get home, side street. And something came out of the woods and bashed into my truck. And it didn't totally lift it, but it kind of like made the tires chirp. And I'm like, oh my God. And I looked in my mirrors and I said, I got to stop. And I heard the words in my head, don't. Literally like someone spoke to me. And I'm like, what? And it said, don't. And I'm like, okay. And I looked, there was nothing in the road. It was like it just ran into me randomly. And I don't, it's one of those things like woulda, coulda, shoulda, who knows what would have happened, I mean, stranger things have happened to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There was no damage on the truck?
There was like this little dent. There was no hair, because I looked the next day and I'm like, there's got to be hair. And I'm thinking I'm going to get, because working in an animal hospital, I could have analyzed it or had somebody analyze it for me.
Yeah.
But there was no hair.
Yeah, it's not expensive to do a DNA analysis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I was like hoping there'd be something, because I'm like, it couldn't have been a deer, because a deer would have kind of faltered a little bit. I would have seen it, I thought. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it kind of moved the truck a little bit, enough to make the tires chirp. And, that was a Ford Explorer, so it was not a little truck.
A heavy, yeah.
Not a huge.
Right. I'm just thinking really quick.
Yeah.
But the back area where the light is, where the legs were seen and such.
Across the street.
That was across the street. Okay.
Yep.
Because I'm just thinking about your brother's, the experience of that running. There's woods behind your home?
Oh, yeah, we are loaded. Like, we have swamp, a river, and a brook. I mean, we have it all. Like, yeah. If people are saying there's like the perfect set, that this is it. Because we have all woods and fields and farm on one side. We have one neighbor next to us, and then across the street there's like a few people, but we're spaced pretty far apart because our road was originally a cow path. So, the farmer that owned the land sold it to, or gave it to his daughters. So everything's spaced pretty far apart. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like this is where they want to be. I mean, I know my uncle, this was years and years and years ago, and my other uncle told me this about his brother. He says George would never talk about it. He said he told him what happened, and he said, I think he saw a Sasquatch. He was trapping. He was out and this was ages ago, probably in the 50s. He was out there trapping and stuff, and I think he ran into a Sasquatch. Because my Uncle Lee said he would never watch any Wolfman movies or anything like that again. And he said he didn't want to talk about it after that. And to know my uncle is to know he's not a person that you would ever think would even believe that.
Or make something up like that, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
That was in Connecticut as well?
Pardon?
That was in Connecticut too?
Oh, yeah, that was in our yard, our back.
Oh, wow,
our
okay.
Woods.
Okay.
Yep, our woods along the river and stuff. And, I've seen various things in the woods. I've seen, these are weird. Those walls of water that they use for, features in a building?
Yeah.
It's like this nice stone wall, and they run water over it. You know how it looks when you look through it?
Yep.
It's kind of like shaky and like that. I saw that out in the woods, and I thought, am I looking at a portal?
Yeah.
Because I truly believe that's just how these things get around, Jeff.
Yeah, me too. I
do, because nothing happens usually around here in the winter. We don't see footprints, nothing. Mm-hmm. But most of the action happens actually in the summertime,
There's, in the upload that I talked about today, I was talking about portals, and, I honestly believe that, I'm starting to believe that that's why we're not seeing them. I don't think there's magic attached to it. Like I said, I made the statement, I'm looking at my door. My door is not magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Like magnets and the magnetic attractions of things can open certain things. Science has already proved there's dimensions aside of ours. It would explain the disappearances of them very rapidly. It would explain, if there is some sort of magnetic pulse around them. And I'm not saying they can control this. Maybe they just know where it is. They can feel it and sense it. Like you said, we as humans a long time ago had these senses. We just lost them as we evolved, I guess. Like when we got used to, we just became more modern, and we lost these abilities throughout time. They still have them. They still can feel where these attractions or these openings are, because a strong magnetic kind of power can feel it. A human can feel it. So yeah, it makes sense, and it makes sense where people aren't getting pictures of these things,
I think it totally makes sense, Jeff.
What was that taken by a potato cam? Well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's using things that are like, they run on, all the new stuff is like run on, what is it, like Wi-Fi or whatever it is, the phones and all that. Well, what if you just took an old, like an XG1 like I have?
Yeah.
I would think it would take a better picture because it's kind of mechanical, really, There's not all that computerized whatever in it.
Yeah.
And I think, I think it disrupts them.
Yeah.
I think that's what's up with the trail cams too. Oh, and I was going to say, when people follow tracks, right? They're following tracks and all of a sudden they end.
Yep.
Well, there's your portal, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a guy that I had talked to in Michigan, I believe. He's got a farm, an old farm. He's got a workshop in the barn. And he saw these creatures come out of a portal. It was a snowy day. Come out of a portal at night. Snowy night. So there was snow on the ground, and it came out of the portal, and then he watched it go like 100 feet, and then the tracks ended. And it went through one of these portals.
Yep.
The guy is real old and wanted me to come out there to do an interview with him. But I mean, I couldn't, unfortunately. That's how he wanted to do the interview. But, he wouldn't. But just the way he was explaining everything it made perfect sense, because he's like, I got these tracks and then they end. And he's like, I couldn't figure out where the hell they were coming from until one night I was out in the barn, and it's got a wood shop or something. And he's working on, he was actually a blacksmith, I believe. And he was working on something, and he just got a feeling to look out the back barn window and saw this, he didn't see an opening. He didn't see this, spectacular glowing orb with it come out. He just said it came out of nowhere and then walked 100 feet and then just disappeared.
I think a lot of this stuff is just part of our natural world, and we're only now beginning to, I don't know if notice it or understand it or even see it.
Yeah.
Is what's happening, I just think there's a lot more going on in our world than we ever knew about.
Yeah.
And it's, and it's not supernatural, and it's not this or that. It's like, this is the world.
Yeah.
This is where we live.
It's it is kind of supernatural. It's natural, but
yeah.
But like scientists, are now going deep into things and you know, saying, hey, this really happens. This really exists. The portals or the dimensions,
Yep.
these creatures, inorganic beings. There's scientific thesis write-ups about these inorganic beings that live on an alternate plane that feed off of the fear of whatever we have, and they can imitate whatever fear we have. So like you're in the woods, excuse me, and you are thinking you hear these noises, and your brain thinks Bigfoot, your brain thinks Dogman, your brain thinks, you know, this, and these creatures then play off of that and become that in your brain, in your eyes, and then they're gone.
And that's what I think they do. I think we've been...
I'm not saying that's what Bigfoot is. I'm not saying that's what Bigfoot or Dogman. I'm just saying scientists have talked about these things called inorganic beings that, you know, obviously a Bigfoot and a Dogman are real, and they are flesh and blood, just from somewhere else. And that's why we don't find bones, because when they die on their own side, maybe.
Exactly. And I think that's why we don't find a lot of places where they live either, because, you know, I've said to my brothers that everybody has been through these pastures and these woods enough. And that's not to say that we would be able to find it.
Yeah.
But we've not seen anything, you know, like caves or, I guess there are a few small caves, but there was fox living in them, you know. But you would think like somebody would find something in the area. But they just, you know, you don't really see it. And I think because, like you're saying, you know, things disappear, they just boom and they're gone, you know, through the portal.
There's got to be an answer to it. So
yeah, I think it's a natural pathway for them.
Yeah.
You know, let's go screw with the humans.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, it's just we lost track of. You know, I did a video a while ago about how we had, you know, I mean, it's people say that it's a myth that we only use a portion of our brain power, but I really think that's true. And I really think that,
I do too.
You know, people that think, you know, that these people that have telekinesis or these people that have this other, you know, they are special because they've harnessed it and are able to use it. But in actuality, are they really special? Because we as humans we all had it at one point. We just forgot how to use it as time went on.
It's what helped us build things. It's what helped us hunt.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just, these are all just powers that were there. I mean, I think we're pretty spectacular when we're our true selves, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
But it's been such a long time that people have been able to be that way. And even if they are, a lot of people won't admit it, you know, because, well, like me, like I told you earlier, you know, for a long time, especially when I was a little kid, when I was like 5 and 6, oh my God, I would not talk to anybody about it, just my mom and my dad, because other kids laughed at me and made fun of, you know. Yep. And it just, you know, but it was part of my life. It's part of what I knew, you know.
Absolutely.
And it just, you know, wasn't cool to be treated like that, so.
No, definitely not. Jane, it was awesome talking with you. Do me a favor, don't hang up. I want to talk to you a little bit more. You want to say goodbye to everybody, say anything to anybody? And
yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, thank you for listening to me. I hope nobody was bored with anything. And I think we live in a weird, wonderful world, and maybe it's not all that weird and it's not all that crazy. I think a lot of things are natural, and I think we're just going to learn more and more about it. The world we grew up in, and I've said this before, knowing is not the world we know now. The world we knew, not the world we know now.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. I agree. There is more accepted now than there was as young, you know, like I don't think when I was growing up, as a kid, and, I'm younger than you, but, people were, Leonard Nimoy, that show was looked at as kooky, crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Now, in our friggin' newspapers, well, we don't get newspapers anymore, but in the news feeds on the internet, they are talking about UAPs, UFOs, this, and that on a daily. There's books being written about this stuff, and not kooky, the quote unquote kooky people, but people that are accepted in the scientific community, in the government community, this and that.
Yeah.
So
people from all walks
the
of
world
life
has changed.
Yep. And there's too many people that know now. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
There's just too many people that have seen things that are, airline pilots and Air Force and whatever they are, and many, many people. And so now they're kind of forced to say, well, maybe you guys are right.
Yeah.
But we know we're right,
Yeah, exactly.
We know.
Well, it was awesome, Jane. Thank you. And
Thank you, Jeff.
don't hang up because I want to talk to you for a little bit longer.
Okay.
All right. Goodbye.
Good night.
All right, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this interview as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. It's always a pleasure to talk with Jane. I really do appreciate Jane, and I appreciate all of you guys. Jane really does have a special place in this channel because she honestly is like this channel's godmother. She really does welcome everyone, and just an amazing person. So, guys, thank you for all of your support. Your support is honestly what keeps this channel growing and going, and what gives people like Jane a chance and a place to share their experiences and theories judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.